So, our podcast is about boundaries, and I always like to somehow circle back to that. So, how do we set strong boundaries around news and politics consumption without totally shutting down on it? There's this anxiety overload that happens, and people decide they're going to tune out. Other people, like I will admit, just get addicted to doom scrolling. Like, as someone who's very media savvy, what advice would you give people about boundaries in media?
I think it's very hard to do because, again, people are inclined to only watch one side, congregate only with those who are going to reinforce their pre existing views. You mentioned the phrase confirmation bias a minute ago. That's what people are looking for. People aren't necessarily looking to expand their horizons and get another point of view on something because they're already convinced that what they know is right. So I think that is part of the problem, particularly when you're dealing with issues today, whether it's immigration or climate change or energy or healthcare or foreign
Hmm.
affairs, on and on and on. These are complex issues that can't be boiled down to simple solutions. They're multifaceted. They're often intertwined, and yet people tend to think of things like that in simple terms. Well, let's build a wall, as if that will might solve perhaps one problem in one way, could create unforeseen problems in another way, and so forth. But again, that's not how people are wired to think. So, how your question was, well, how do you establish boundaries in
Like, what are
media?
healthy boundaries relating to media? Yeah.
In the old days, in the prior to I think the mid '80s, television networks and major broadcasters had something called there's a Federal Communications Commission rule called there were a couple of things. One was called equal time doctrine, and another one was the fairness doctrine, meaning that if you had a guest on a show and they were talking about something, you were obligated to have someone with an opposing point of view come on and balance that out, and then the reader or the viewer would get two points of view in one setting and enable them to sort of make up their mind with a little bit more information. That rule was done away with a couple of decades ago, and it also applied only to over the air broadcast networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and so forth. There are no rules when it comes to cable television. The traditional TV networks have federal licenses that allow them to broadcast. That does not apply to cable networks. They can just do whatever they want. And I think as a result, with no editorial guidelines, no requirement that that they have to have an opposing point of view to balance things out for the benefit of the viewer. They just do whatever they want, and I think that helps explain. Doesn't fully explain, but it helps explain how Fox is almost completely conservative and how MSNBC is almost completely liberal. Now, both of those channels do have occasional guests from the other side, but it's few and far between, and often they're put on just as sort of a almost a punching bag for for the others.
That's a hard no.